is a necessity for in nowadays, because everybody is nowadays working from home, and to protect remote desktop, it is a kind of necessity for an organization nowadays. So in today's world, right, wherein we talk about a data generation, wherein we have lots of sources of data which is being generated by an organization, which needs to be protected. How can we protect that source of data which is sitting in a remote location? Either it is not connected with your LAN. How can we do it using Veeam? So today I'm going to touch base on those points. I'm not going to go in the enterprise portfolio of Veeam, but I'm going to touch base on some of the key points which make this product as an enterprise product. And also along with this, I'm going to show you a brief demo of the endpoint backups, how we can achieve endpoint backups in different scenarios, right? So let's start from today's presentation. So today's agenda is to give you a brief about the Veeam agents for endpoints, which includes Windows endpoints, how we can use those agents to back up your endpoints, how we can use those agents to restore your data in the form of bare metal recovery, wherein we can create a bootable disk using our backup and recover your data. We can do a file level recovery. We can integrate this backup with your Veeam backup and replication tool, which most of you are aware that Veeam has an enterprise product portfolio which is called Veeam Backup and Replication, which does most of the backup and replication for the enterprise data center kind of product portfolio. But when it comes to endpoints, you can also integrate your agents with Veeam Backup Replication Server. So we are going to talk about all those functionalities of Veeam Backup for Endpoint. So let's start. So first of all, what exactly it is, right? So when you talk about in today's world, it's easily means if you talk about a remote workstation, you have to protect your remote workstation by hook or by crook. So for that, what Veeam provides you something called Veeam backup for endpoints using agents, which is very fast, hassle-free backups, which can be controlled either centrally by your Veeam backup replication server, or it can be controlled specifically by your remote agent. Means in Veeam, you can initiate your backup either by centralized way, by creating a policies on your centralized backup server, or you can initiate the policy from your source itself, which is not connected with your LAN. So for example, if you talk about in today's scenarios wherein everybody is working from home, so what happened, generally they are connected with your WAN connection, they are not connected with your LAN connection, and they are not able to reach your enterprise network. So in that scenario, how you can protect your endpoints, right? So in that scenario, we have different scenarios wherein we can back up your data directly from your remote endpoint to a Veeam cloud repository, which can be published, right? So there are multiple ways with the help of which you can protect your uh, remote workstation. So if you see in my in the small diagram which has been given here, in that diagram you can see that on the left hand side I have a desktop, on the right hand side I have a laptop. So in using Veeam agent, I can back up your data onto a Veeam backup replication repository, onto a local drive, onto a shared drive, onto a cloud repository, or uh, onto a OneDrive as well. So if you see, all those can be configured using Veeam backup replication for endpoint. I'll show you how it will work in my demo also. So let's go on to the next slide. Veeam backup for endpoint. There is a main mojo of Veeam which says the simplicity, right? If we talk about the Veeam backup replication products, okay, if you are doing a simple installation, Veeam backup replication takes 15 to 20 minutes for the installation, some 9 or 10 clicks, next, and you're done. Similarly, for the agent installation, wherein you are installing an agent onto your remote desktop, a standalone installation, it takes maximum 5 minutes for the installation, and I would say another 5 minutes for the configuration, and you are done with it. It is very easy to use. It's all GUI driven, wherein you can see multiple functionalities, multiple way of doing your endpoint backups. So first of all, Veeam endpoint gives you multiple options to better control your backups, including you can either backup an entire computer, or you can backup uh, maybe a certain folder, a certain volume, a certain file. All those things you can define it in your backup configuration, which I'm going to show you in my demo as well. You can do a scheduling of your jobs. Scheduling means as per your schedule, as per your requirement. For example, for a laptop user, you can create a centralized policy which says that whenever user connected in a LAN, at that time your agent push installation should start. That can also be configured. You can also configure, see these points, lots of guys are not aware that in Veeam these points exist for the endpoint backups. Backup throttling is very nice way of doing a backup of your endpoints, because when you are doing a full backup, this backup throttling plays a major role. When you are doing a backup also, this creates a different type of algorithm which is being used to back up your environment when it comes to endpoint. This option also I am going to show you in my demo. So why I am discussing all those key points, so that you guys are aware that these all functionalities are already available in Veeam endpoint backup. So now, without wasting much time, let's quickly go on to the demo. So in my demo, just to clear you one thing, the installation of or the configuration of the agents in Veeam can be managed by two methods. One is called centralized way of managing your agents using Veeam backup replication server, wherein we say that centrally on one Veeam backup replication, from one Veeam backup replication, you are pushing all the agents and taking a backup onto Veeam backup repository. Second way of installing or configuring your Veeam agent is to install the agent itself in the console and then configure it to any backup repository location. Most of you guys maybe are already aware what exactly is backup repository. So in Veeam language, we call backup repository is a place wherein we are storing your backup data. Yeah, so that backup data is your backup data, which is called a portable format, which can be recovered in any form. Okay, it's a very you know very fast and very vast topic. When I say portable format, the guys who are working with Veeam, the guys already aware that portable format means you can recover your data anywhere on any workload. So without wasting further time, let's go quickly on to a demo. So first demo which we'll do is for the standalone agent. So in my laptop, I have already installed a Veeam agent. So if you see, this is how the console of Veeam agent looks like. I'm using a latest console, latest agent for Microsoft, for Windows Workstation. So from here, you can manage your licenses and you can define which licenses you want to use. It's very easy to use, it's very easy to configure. Installation takes, as I said, 5 minutes. Next step, I'm not going to show you how to do the installation. I'm going to show you how to configure Veeam backup replication, Veeam backup agents. So in my case, if you see, these are the tabs which you see. So if you click on about, you see this information, wherein you can configure couple of things, wherein you can see couple of things. If you see support, this is where your support comes into the picture. So if you have bought a license and if you want to raise a technical case with Veeam, just click on technical support. Automatically this will be sent to Veeam, right? So these are couple of options which are useful for you guys, which you can see. So if you click on online help, it will take you to the Veeam help center portal. If you click on settings, in settings, I was talking about throttling, right? Throttling is a way with the help of which you can um, configure your network bandwidth for endpoints. So right now I am sitting on an endpoint, and this is an endpoint console wherein you can see that I have couple of options. I can throttle my network to whatever speed I want, Mbps, kbps. I can restrict VPN connection usage. I can restrict Wi-Fi usage to these networks. Means I can create network throttling based on my requirement. So these options are very useful when you do endpoint backups, right? Which Wi-Fi it should use when you are doing a backup, if you have multiple SSIDs in your environment and if you are sitting in a LAN. So there are lots of options which you get from Veeam endpoint backup. So this is about the network. Then if you go to the main option, which is called configuration of backup. So in my case, I have already configured a job. Let me edit this job and show you what all options you get. So in your case, if you have not configured anything, you need to click on add new job, right? So just guys, remember this option is wherein I am initiating the backup job from agent itself. Means from the same console which I want to take a backup, the same endpoint, from there itself I am initiating a job. Name your job, click on next. Here you define what do you want to back up. If you click on an entire computer, include USB, I can do an entire bare metal recovery, right? You can also choose volume level backup. You can also choose file level backup, right? So based on your requirement, you can choose what you want to backup for that endpoint. Once you click on next, since I have chosen the file level backup, clicked on next, chosen my file, what I wanted to backup. Also in file level backup, I can include or exclude some objects with your file extensions. For example, you don't want to, sorry, you don't want to backup MP3 files, right? Just select it and click on start. That's it. So your MP3 files will be excluded when you are doing a full backup. Right? Similarly, some other files you don't want to backup, like I don't know, maybe uh, JPG. You don't want any image to come there. So these type of exclusion you can do. Or if you are doing a file level backup or a full level backup, there is certain file which you 100% want, that also you can include it in your environment. So that way it is possible to include or exclude objects while configuring a job for workstation. So once your source is defined, after that you click on next and choose your destination. Look at this guys, how many options you receive to store your backed up data for an endpoint. Means if you are a small organization and you don't have Veeam backup replication in your environment, you can put the data in the local storage itself. Okay, local storage means where your agent is installed. Means this is the source and this is where I want to back up. It can be a local storage. It can be a shared folder, a UNC path. It can be a Veeam backup repository. Veeam backup repository, as I mentioned earlier, Veeam backup repository is a place which is being used by Veeam backup replication to store your data. If you are already using Veeam, or if you are planning to use Veeam for your enterprise environment and you are using Veeam backup and replication, the same backup repository you can use to store your endpoint data as well. You don't have to configure a separate backup repository. Then this is the important one, which everybody is talking about, Veeam Cloud Connect repository, right? Veeam Cloud Connect repository is a repository which is being published onto a cloud platform. Veeam Cloud Connect repository is generally designed for a service provider guys who are selling DR as a service and backup as a service. So what happened? The service provider guy publishes its cloud repository, and for an endpoint like me, wherein I am sitting and I am not connected with with my network, with my LAN, I can directly write data onto a cloud connect repository, right? That cloud connect repository is published either on any of the cloud platform. Okay, so these are the multiple steps which you can use. Similarly, the last option, I guess most of guys are not aware, is Microsoft OneDrive. If you are using Office 365, if you don't have local storage, shared storage, Veeam backup repository, Cloud Connect repository, if you don't have all those things and you don't want to configure all those things, you want to go simpler, you can also configure the backup in Microsoft OneDrive. I have a customer who is an enterprise level of customer. So what he is doing, he does not want to put any workload onto his Veeam backup replication server. So what he is doing, he is an Office 365 customer. So he had configured the endpoint backup for individual Microsoft OneDrive for each user. And then he is taking an entire Office 365 backup using Veeam backup Office 365. So that way, he is protecting his Office 365 data as well as his endpoints data, right? So this is very simpler. These are some tricks which you guys as a customer, you guys as a partner, you guys as an architect can utilize while you are configuring or while you are designing your Veeam solutions for your end customer. Because remote protection, because the endpoint protection is something which everybody wants, but they are not aware that how these things can be utilized in their day-to-day life to make their life easier, right? So there are lots of scenarios which can be utilized when you are configuring this. So for example, let's say you use Microsoft OneDrive. Once you click on next, what you need to do, you just need to click your Microsoft OneDrive here. You need to provide your credentials. If you click on Veeam Cloud Connect repository, what you need to do, you need to provide the FQDN of your Cloud Connect repository, which would be provided by a service provider. If you use Veeam backup repository, what you need the IP address of your Veeam backup replication server, right? If you use shared folder, you need to provide the UNC path here. If you use local storage, you need to provide the local storage where you want to do a backup, right? So I'm just showing you all the options with the help of which you can configure your endpoint backup. So for example, if I have chosen a local storage, you can define your retention according to your requirement. And if you click on advanced, you can see again there are certain options, right? You can create synthetic full, you can create your maintenance windows, you can create your storage policies, wherein you can define your compression, wherein you can define your storage. If you want to enable encryption, you can enable encryption as always. So all those features are available in Veeam backup for endpoints, right? So once you do this, after once you click on the next, on the schedule, either you can define a schedule when do you want, every day, weekdays, or on these days. If computer is powered off at this time, what do you want to do, skip a backup or backup once powered on? If you have defined a policy or if you have defined a schedule to do your backup and your source is not ready at that time, and if you choose this option, backup once powered on, whenever, if your schedule is missed and whenever your source is powered on, at that time your policy will trigger and the backup will start happening. So these are couple of the tricks which are easy to use, easy to configure, gives you lots of benefit, right? And also once backup is taken, computer should keep running, sleep, hibernate, shut down, whatever policy you want to configure, you can configure according to your requirement. At the following event, when your computer is locked, you should trigger a job. When your computer is log off, you should trigger a job. When backup target is connected, then also you should trigger a job. What triggers this event? Attaching a USB backup target. If you see here, or connecting to a network where a remote target resides. When backup target is connected, for example, you are doing a backup for your endpoints maybe on USB, right? So that USB, whenever you connect, that information is already there and your backup should start happening, right? Backup no more often than every 2 hours, means how frequent you want to do a backup. What I mean that you can configure your backup policies according to your requirement when you are using an agent, right? So you see there are multiple ways of configuring your backup. All these ways are available. So once you have configured your backup, this is how it looks like. If you see, this is your main console in the agent itself, wherein you see a backup. So I have already done a file level backup, and here you can see these graphs which shows you whether the backup is successful or not. If now you want to restore the backup, what you can do, there are multiple ways of restoring the backup. If you come here, you click on your backup job, you see backup now, active full, standalone full backup, restore file, restore volume, right? You can restore a file or a volume from here as well, or you can click on this bar and you can see what you want to do. It will show you the entire logs, as well as it will give you what you want to restore. So in my case, I have taken a file backup. That's why you can see at the bottom, restore file is being highlighted. If I could have taken a backup of entire volume, restore volume was also highlighted. Right now it's grayed out because I have only taken a backup of restore files. Let me click on restore files and let's see what happens. Now I want to restore a backup file. How can I do this? Let's see what happens at the back end. So once I clicked on the restore file, you see there is one backup browser which has been opened, and in this backup browser you see a GUI view of your entire data. So in my case, I have taken a backup of one folder called test AWS, in which I have one test file. Now, how can I restore this? If you right click on this, you see you get two options: restore, either overwrite or keep. If you click on overwrite, it will replace your source file. If you click on keep, it will keep a copy of your source file. Or you can get see a properties, what's the size of the data, etc., etc. Means for restoration of your endpoints, if you want to do a file level restoration, folder level restoration, it is very easy. It's all GUI driven, which you can do it using clicks of your mouse with your fingertip with a very easy way. Now, this is about file level restore. What about bare metal restore? So right now in my demo, I have shown you how to configure a backup. So right now I have taken a file level backup. In order to do a bare metal recovery, you need to do a full backup, right? So when I go there in my backup file, so here I need to first configure a full backup. Once I am done with full backup, what I can do, I can create something called uh, recovery media, right? So here you see, here I need to choose the entire full computer. Once the entire full computer backup is done, after that you need to create a recovery media. How to see a recovery media? Come to your laptop. You can see something called Veeam is installed here. I'm talking about standalone way of managing your Veeam backup. Come to Veeam, you can see something called create recovery media, right? Once you click on this, what will happen? This is installed on my endpoint. It will see, what do you want to do? It will ask you to create an ISO file. That ISO file is your entire image of your operating system coming from your backed up data, right? So you choose what do you want to do. If let's say you are using encryption, you can use decryption key, include network connection, etc., etc. Now once you click on next, it will create an entire image, an ISO file onto your location wherever you want to keep it. Right now, it's up to you. You can burn this ISO on a USB to boot and do a bare metal recovery either onto a same hardware or onto a different hardware. Now it's up to you. You can burn a CD or a DVD, and then you can boot up a different VM or different endpoint with the same data. So this is where you can utilize bare metal recovery functionality of Veeam by creating this recovery media. This recovery media carries the entire information of your operating system, of your volumes and the data. So for example, once in a month, you can update this recovery media and you can use it for bare metal recovery. And anyways, on daily basis, you are doing an incremental backup. So bare metal recovery, you can use it you can utilize it using your recovery disk, and the incremental restore, you can use it using file level or volume level recovery. It depends on your requirement. So in a way, it is very easy to configure your Veeam backup for endpoints. There are multiple ways of restoration. There are multiple scenarios which can be utilized, right? So now I have shown you the backup agent which has been initiated by source itself. Now there is another way which is a recommended way for all the organization to manage their backup using Veeam backup replication server, right? So I have one Veeam backup and replication server running in my environment. So this is my Veeam backup and replication server. Most of the guys who are working with Veeam portfolio, they are aware of it, what exactly it means. When you come onto the inventory tab. In inventory tab, you see something called physical infrastructure. This is where you want to manage everything centrally from one central backup server, which takes care of your server backup, virtual backups, cloud backups, as well as endpoint backups. So today I'm going to show you a centralized way of creating a uh, endpoint backup. So in this scenario, you see you can create something called protection group. These are the three steps which you need to perform to configure your backup. So if you click on physical infrastructure on the right hand side, you can see what all things you need to perform. So I need to first create a protection group, right? So how to create a protection group? Just click on it and follow the steps. So in my case, I have already created one. Let me edit the steps and show you what all steps are there. So name your protection group, click on next. What do you want to do? If it is a bigger environment, you can use Microsoft Active Directory objects if it is integrated with your ED. If it is a bigger environment and it's a mix and match of both, you can import your CSV file and add your objects into it. If it is an individual computer, you can do individual also. Means it's a policy driven centralized way of configuring your endpoints. So in my case, I have used individual. Click on next. Now you need to add the objects. So once you click on objects, you click on add, you need to define the IP address or the host name. Because I have chosen individual, so I have added this IP address. After that, define your credentials and click on test now. Let's see whether my Veeam is able to reach there or not. It will do a normal Windows credential testing. It says success, so means I'm able to reach using my credentials. Click on next. Define your schedule. So here, when we are creating a protection group, we are defining a policy that at this time we are pushing the Windows agents of Veeam to your destination using this policy. So here you can see it says install backup agent recommended. So here I am installing a backup agent using this policy from my centralized Veeam backup and replication server. The same tabs which you have seen in agent console, you can see here also. You can configure your throttling according to your requirement. If it is workstation, you can choose workstation, server, or all host. Veeam automatically detects whether it's a server operating system or a workstation. For workstation, the consumption of the licenses is 1 is to 3, means one instance can back up 3 workstations. But when it comes to server, the consumption is 1 is to 1. if it is a Windows server above 2008 R2 SP1, your one instance can be utilized to back up one server, right? The guys who are aware of Veeam portfolio, they might understand Veeam universal licensing. This is from licensing terms. So coming back to the topic, agent for Windows, throttling can be configured, notifications can be configured because this is a centralized way of doing a backup. You can configure your notifications. Once it is done, that's it. Veeam will install these three services and agent onto your target. Once you click on apply finish, you can see something like this here, right? You can see your agent status. You can see when it was, whether it is online or offline, and you can see the OS which is running inside it. So in my case, it is in Windows 2016 server, right? So till this time, what I achieved using my centralized Veeam backup replication server without going to the agent itself, without going to the endpoint itself, I have managed to install my agent from the centralized console. Now, since my agent is installed, everything is done, I need to configure a backup. Correct. So there are multiple ways again for configuring the backup. If you see it is online and it is installed here, right click on this and you see something called either add to backup job or create a new job, right? If you click on new job, it will automatically take you to the main console of Veeam backup replication server and you see this option. You see it's a workstation or a server. So in my case, it is a server. That's why it has automatically detected server. If it is a workstation, let's click on workstation. In workstation mode, you see two options, either managed by backup server, managed by agent. So in my case, because it's an already installed component, that's why in workstation it is not showing because there is no workstation. So let's take a server example. You can choose both managed by backup server, managed by agent. If I choose managed by backup server, you see on your left hand side there are certain steps which are changing, right? So let's use managed by backup server. You can define whether it's a server, failover, cluster, workstation. Click on next, name your job, add your components. Okay, you can add an individual computer, you can add a protection group, right? So in my case, I have added an entire protection group. Click on OK. Next, what do you want to do? Same console which you see in your Veeam backup replication, same console you see here as well. uh, let's say it's entire computer. Storage, so here in the storage you define your Veeam backup replication storage. So in storage it can be a standalone backup repository, it can be a scale out backup repository, and along with it you can define your retention here. So you get multiple ways of retentions, you get all the options which are available in Veeam backup replication. If you go on to advanced, the same algorithms you can use, whether you want to do a synthetic full backup, what kind of compression level you want to use, what kind of storage media, whether you want to use encryption or not, all those options you get as it is. And once it is done, click on next and you can define application aware processing. This application aware processing is for server operating system. In workstation also you don't get this. Click on next and define your schedule once you are done with it. So this is where your backup job looks like. This is where it comes as a backup job. So I have already configured a backup job. Once the backup job is done, after that it will come something like this called disk on your Veeam backup replication main console, and you can use all the functionalities of restoration of your workstation, whatever functionalities are available. You can see you can do an instant VM recovery of your workstation. For example, if certain workstation is failed, you can instantly recover it. You can do volume restore. You can export disk as virtual disk. You can restore guest files. You can restore to Amazon or Microsoft Azure. You can export your backup. All those functionalities are available. Along with it, you can also create recovery media. from your centralized Veeam backup or application server. This is being used to do a bare metal recovery. So right now it's being grayed out because I have done a file level backup. If I could have done a full backup, this create recovery media option was also available and I can create an ISO. Similarly, I have created the same ISO using agent console. Similarly, I can create a ISO from here also. You see on the top also you get option to create a recovery media. So right now it's only a file level backup. That's why you are not able to see this media here, but you can create it centrally from here also. So what I mean to say that right now, what all things we have discussed? We have discussed how to manage your endpoint backup with two different types of management. One is either managed by servers, second is either managed by agent. So let's quickly go back to our presentation. So we have seen a demo of different type of backups, how can it can be achieved. When it comes to recovery, I have shown you the Veeam recovery modules, how you can recover your data. If it is a file level data, how it can be done. If it is a volume level restore, how it can be done. If it is a bare metal restore using recovery disk, how it can be done. So it's always easy to use. In our Veeam language, we call it, GUI clicked based recovery, which is very easy to use, easy to recover. The guys who are already using Veeam, they know that in Veeam we have Veeam Explorer, which gives you a GUI view, similarly, which you have seen here also on the right hand side. With the help of which you can recover your different objects. Guys, just imagine in an enterprise environment wherein you want to protect your endpoint. For you, what are the most important things? The most important things, either you want to back up the entire volume, either you want to back up the entire system, or either you want to back up some important folder on which user is working, right? So you can configure all those policies, depends on your requirements. So with Veeam it is possible. So whatever you can think of, you can do it using Veeam. So when it comes to recovery media, for the bare metal recovery, I showed you we can create an ISO file. That ISO file can be burned onto a USB, CD, or a normal way of doing an ISO boot if you want to run that workstation as a VM or something in your environment for instant recovery. That also can be done. So creating a recovery media is very easy once the full backup is done. It's like again matter of clicks. That's it. Um, Integration with Veeam backup and replication. I have showed you the centralized way of managing your endpoint backup, how it can be managed from one centralized console. Uh, the guys who are not aware what is Veeam backup and replication, Veeam backup and replication is an enterprise product provided by Veeam, which backs up your virtual machines, which backs up your cloud VMs, physical servers, workstations, your NAS filer. All those things can be backup using Veeam backup and replication. And if you are already using it for your data center, you can use it for your workstation also. So Veeam endpoint backup can be integrated with Veeam backup replication server. Using Veeam Explorers, you get different ways of restoring your objects. For example, for Active Directory, we have Veeam Explorer for Active Directory. For Exchange, we have Veeam Explorer for Exchange. For SharePoint, we have Explorer for SharePoint. For SQL, we have Explorer for SQL Server. There are almost different ways of restoring an object in an environment. You can export your VMDK file, VHD or VHDX file based on your requirement. If you want to move your backup file from one place to another place, or if you want to restore it onto some different location as a VM, you can export this file. Basic monitoring is also available, and also you can copy your endpoint backups from one place to another place. Yeah, so that's possible. Similarly, you can use encryption, which nowadays is a very important factor. lots of cyber attacks are happening here and there. How you can safeguard your backed up data is one of the most readily used feature is encryption, which can be in data center world we are already using it. For your remote workstation, when you are doing a backup, you can also enable encryption, which I have shown you in my demo. So Veeam uses AES 256-bit algorithm uh, to encrypt your data. So that can be used. You can use and assign end user permissions to Veeam backup repositories. This is for the restoration scenarios. If you have a big IT team and you want to use role-based access management, you can define permissions on your backup repository. Depends on your requirement for which user you want to give which permission. Traffic throttling, if it is on VPN, if it is on different network, it should throttle your network. That is also possible. I have shown you in my demo also. So all those integrations with Veeam backup and replication for endpoints for the agent based backup, you can utilize it, right? Customer support, you can directly go to customer support. There is one Veeam backup free agent available which you can use and test it in your environment, and if you like it, you can go and buy the licenses for the workstation. If you guys are aware of the Veeam portfolio, Veeam technical support is very good. They got some 78, I guess, NPS score this time, which is a net promoter score, which is very highly rated in the tech world. So these are couple of links which are available, which you can use. Restoration options, I have, these are couple of the guys who are using Veeam backup for agents, Veeam backup for endpoints, and these are couple of the responses which they liked it very much. The restoration using GUI driven wizard, using explorers, which they say it's use, easy to configure, easy to restore. These are couple of things. If you need more information, these are couple of blogs which are available on Veeam blogs, wherein we discuss the technical features, wherein we discuss the technical bugs, wherein we try to get the solution of a problem on different scenarios. So that's blog is the place wherein you can see. And if you want to know the more product information, you go to veeam.com and click on endpoint backup, and you can see all the data sheets, all the use cases related with it. Uh, why to wait? Download now, try it. 30 days free trial version. You can get it directly from Veeam. You don't need anybody. You can follow the steps from the technical guide, and you can configure your environment. So my session was very quick and fast. So let's see if you have any questions related with it, then we'll answer. If not, we'll see you next time. And let's see if we have any questions. Looks like there is a question. So the question comes from one of the guy, can we apply different policy for a group of endpoints, or we need to set up a policy for each? Very interesting question. When you are doing a centralized way of managing your backup, you can create multiple protection groups, multiple policies. For example, let's say you have 100 endpoints in your environment, and out of which, let's say you have some top management, you have finance, you have HR, you have some other department. You can segregate your protection group according to your department, according to your requirement, according to your priority, right? And you can put those computers in that priority. So for example, for top management, you want to do a daily backup, you create one protection group and define a policy wherein the daily backup happens. For, let's say, your HR, again, you want to do a daily backup, or you want to do a backup twice in a day, or you want to do a backup every 1 hour, right? You can define a policy for this. So these are the different advantages. So to answer your question, it's absolutely 100% possible to define a different backup policies for different users in your environment. Okay. Will you share recording of the session? That I'm sure will be available on Redington portal. The recording will be available by marketing guys, and I'm sure you can watch this recording at any point of time. If you have any questions related with it, you guys can send me an email. If you want to see a POC, if you want to see a deep dive technical demo of it, or if you want to just see how things work, you can call me at any point of time. You can send me an email. My email was mentioned at the beginning. If you want, I can type my email right now also. Let me see, because I can't see any other question coming up, right? So this is how your licensing works for universal licenses. Let me see if I have something else. Any more questions? I don't see any more questions. So I hope this short and sweet session was knowledgeable for you.